Hello there, my name is Hido and welcome to the Pantheon, where today there's a couple of cats knocking around. I don't know if you've lost one, a stray maybe. Well, we've got a rather fine feline here in Kitt, Kanto, Mayhem, Diva. 4 mana for a 3/3 cat bard druid. That's playing an instrument, nothing untoward. Anyway, when it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. Cool. And at the beginning of combat on each player's turn, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control. When you do, type creature that player controls gets +2/+2, gains trample at the end of turn, goad that creature. Now, I've played this deck in its ungraded form, and I had a terrible time. I think I just drew the wrong cards, but this card can lead to some quite interesting builds of the deck, and I've got a couple of good tips for you. So let's have a look at them. But first, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, because we're making tons more content just like this, so join me on the journey. Now, without further ado, let's have a dive in. We'll look at my number 5 for Kitt Kanto. And at number 5, we've got the untap symbol and Duergar, God knows, Mine Captain. 3 mana for a 2/1 dwarf soldier. So the thing about this commander is when we've tapped our creatures, they're then used essentially, aren't they? That's what tapping represents. But the untap symbol, as represented here by this little black untap symbol, means that we can untap things and then reuse the ability on our commander each turn. 2 mana untap, the attacking creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn. So the great thing is that's just all attacking creatures. So our opponent's creatures that we've goaded, we can then give them a little buff. So our opponents are really incentivized to get in there for combat. Then we can untap this, use another token to tap with it. Ah, there we go. We're going to be buffing things until the end of turn. And look at that artwork. I love him, his big horrible mouth. But it's a really cool card. And similarly, we got Pilly Pala. 2 mana for a 1/1 scarecrow with flying. Why is the scarecrow flying? It scares me. Pay 2 and untap, add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. So nice for activating any other abilities. And just really, really good. It's a nice mana efficient sort of way of untapping creatures so we can keep goading each of our opponents in turn. Then we got Ryu, World Warrior. Excellent. 3 mana for a 2/4 with training. So whenever this creature attacks with another creature with greater power, put a 1/1 counter on this creature so we can grow him over and over again. Then we got Hadouken. Pay 5 and untap, discard a card. Ryu deals damage equal to his power to any target. If excess damage is dealt to a creature this way, draw a card. So great way of controlling the board. Nice bit of card advantage. 5 mana is quite the investment, but we're going to be sitting there waiting for our opponents to do things. Really, really nice use of it. Control. It's just a nice controlling sort of play. And if things go pear-shaped, you can start throwing damage all over the place. Great card. And then similarly, we got the Hate Flayer. 7 mana for a 5/5 elemental with Wither. So it deals damage to creatures in form of -1/-1 counters. Then we can pay 3 and untap it. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So you could even use this to finish off a player, or just spread 5 damage bursts at the different creatures, control the board that way. The untap symbol, one of my favorite things in Magic. It's just such a cool corruption of something that we've seen so much of. So great card there. Which takes me on to number 4. And at number 4, we've got Vigilance. So the thing about our commander is we want to be leaving our creatures untapped so we can use them on our opponent's turn, make sure that we goad them. So using Vigilance so we can attack in and then do that later is a great way of doing that. And Frontland? I don't know. 4 mana for a 3/5 with Vigilance, but it's a Vigilance Lord. Creatures you control with Vigilance have pay 1, tap target creature. So another great piece of control here built into a creature that has Vigilance, and we can use it maybe for our commander's ability or just use all our Vigilance creatures to control the board so no one's attacking maybe us or someone else. Really, really awesome. To go along with it, there's Bounty Agent, 2 mana, 2/2 Vigilance. You know, not that great of a card generally, but it fits with the theme of the deck because we can tap and sacrifice it, destroy target legendary permanent that's an artifact, creature, or enchantment. So a wonderful way of removing maybe a planeswalker or one of our opponents. Oh no, you can't remove planeswalkers. Okay, yeah, it's just good for removing commanders. Ignore that last sentence, I'm a fool. But a really nice card that fits with the deck. Then we've got Loyal Unicorn, a nice global effect here. 4 mana for a 3/4 with Vigilance. Ooh. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, if you control your commander, prevents all combat damage that will be dealt to creatures you control this turn. Other creatures you control gain Vigilance until end of turn, so all of our guys can just swing in with impunity, saves them from combat damage, and then in our opponent's turns we can goad them and force them to attack each other. And we're going to have our commander on the field quite a lot because it's very important to the game plan. Then Aurelia, the War Leader, amazing Vigilance card. Not really the Vigilance that you usually play this for, but it's a nice added effect. Whenever it attacks for the first time each turn, untap all creatures you control. After this phase, there's an additional there's an additional combat phase. And it's got flying and haste, so straight away you can get in there, slamming for tons of damage, double attack, and you untap all your creatures you control. So even if we're attacking with things that don't have Vigilance, we can attack the first time, then they all untap. We don't have to attack that second time, and then we can use them to goad our opponents. Then there's Brimaz, King of Oreskos, 3 mana, 3/4 with Vigilance. Ooh, Cat Soldier, so it fits the sort of feline theme. And whenever it attacks, put a 1/1 white cat soldier creature token with Vigilance onto the battlefield attacking. Whenever it blocks, put the same token onto the battlefield blocking. So nice token producer, which might come up in a second. And we can just churn through creating tons of little tokens. And it's cats. Meow. Then we've got Heliod, God of the Sun. Another great way of giving Vigilance to all our creatures. 4 mana, 5/6 indestructible. As long as devotion to white is less than 5, Heliod isn't a creature. Other creatures you control have Vigilance, and pay 4, put a 2/1 white cleric enchantment creature token onto the battlefield. So a nice token producer, which might be a theme I'm going to talk about in a second. And all of those enchantments that we make are going to have Vigilance because Heliod gives them to them all. Very, very nice to see. And finally, there's a rather bizarre card here with Angel's Trumpet. 3 mana for an artifact. Attacking does not cause creatures to tap, so everything has Vigilance, including our opponent's creatures. At the end of each player's turn, tap all untapped creatures he or she controls that did not attack this turn. Angel's Trumpet deals 1 damage to that player for each creature tapped this way. So if our opponents do want to sit back, they're going to, well, end up with all their creatures tapped, and they're going to take some damage. So it really incentivizes combat all around. Great card that fits this deck. So there's a nice vigilant sort of segment of the deck. And I think it fits really well with this commander. Which takes me on to number 3. And at number 3, we've got God-Favored General and the Inspired mechanic here. Inspired is a really cool thing. 2 mana for a 1/1. Whenever it becomes untapped, you may pay 3. If you do, put 2 1/1 white soldier enchantment creature tokens onto the battlefield. So we're going to churn out a bunch of tokens, and it's taking advantage of the fact that we're going to be tapping this to goad. So with the goad thing, we don't have to have haste or anything. We can just tap our creatures even if they have summoning sickness. So this gets the creature tapped, and then we get a benefit for it untapping. Then Captain of the Watch is another great token generator, and it gives Vigilance to all our soldiers. 6 mana, 3/3 with Vigilance. Other soldier creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Vigilance. And when it enters the battlefield, put 3 1/1 soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. Does everything this deck wants to do. Goes really wide, creates a bunch of power on the board, and we've got that Vigilance tag as well. Then, dear God, we've got Assure, which is a nice way of protecting our commander. It's an instant that puts a 1/1 counter onto target creature. That creature gains indestructible until end of turn. So we want to keep our commander on the field so we can keep manipulating the field, and this is a good way of protecting it. And then on the other side, we've got Assemble, which is 6 mana for an instant. Create 3 2/2 green and white elf knight creature tokens with Vigilance. So it fits perfectly with the Vigilance theme and creates a bunch of tokens that we can use to tap and then just attack in and finish off our opponents with. Then there's Battle Screech, which uses a lot of tokens very well. 4 mana for a sorcery, create 2 1/1 bird creature tokens. Wow. And then in flashback, tap 3 untap white creatures you control. So if we're not wanting to goad things, we can just use this for no mana at all and just tapping a couple of creatures to get even bigger board state. And then we can use those 2 that we made to tap to goad one of our opponent's creatures. Very, very nice. Then Jetmir, Nexus of Rebels, is a phenomenal commander. 4 mana for a 5/4. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Vigilance. Hey. If you control 3 or more creatures, so this is a great payoff for having tons of tokens. Creatures you control have +1/+1 and trample as long as you control 6 or more creatures. And creatures you control get +1/+1, +1/+0 and have double strike as long as you have 9 or more creatures. And each of them stacks. So you can end up with +3/+3, Vigilance, Trample, and double strike, which will just end games. It's going to be ridiculous how big this is. So you can just drop this and then instantly end the game. So a great card to finish on. Then Felidar Retreat, which works on the tokens and the Vigilance side here. 4 mana for an enchantment, landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under control, choose 1. We can either create a 2/2 white cat beast, cats, meow, or put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control so it grows them forever. And those creatures gain Vigilance. Hey, see, it's all coming together in a synergistic manner. Which brings me on to Divine Visitation. So we're making all these tokens. This is phenomenal in lots of ways. 5 mana for an enchantment. If 1 or more creature tokens will be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and Vigilance are created instead. So it levels up all the 1/1s that we're making into 4/4s, and they have built-in Vigilance. So it just fits the style of decks so well. So there's a couple of great token creation cards, which takes me to number 2. And at number 2, we've got Goad. So we're goading 1 creature each turn with our opponents. You know, we're saying, look, that has to attack me. Come on, get with the program. But with Marissi, Breaker of the Coil, Marissi, yeah, 4 mana for a 5/4. Your opponents can't cast spells during combat, so no little tricks going on. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, goad each creature that player controls. So if we slip through with a token, every one of their creatures has to attack. And goad is such a good mechanic because it means that they're not going to be attacking us, they're going to be attacking somebody else. Wonderful. Really, really great card. And it's a cat. It just fits so well in this deck. Great card to see. Then there's Disrupt Decorum. Yes, Disrupt Decorum, which is just an insane card which just leads to chaos. 4 mana sorcery. Goad all creatures you don't control. It's everything. Obviously, if things enter the battlefield after that, they're not goaded, but that's 1 turn cycle where everything will just go crazy. And it will just cause things to happen, which Commander can be quite a slow game, and this forcing things to happen is really, really cool. Then we've got Grenzo Havoc Raiser, sadly quite an expensive card these days. 2 mana for a 2/2. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, choose 1. And because we've got so many tokens, we're going to get a lot of triggers. Go to target creature that player controls, or exile the top card of that player's library. Till end of turn, you may cast that card, and you may spend mana as though a mana of any colour to cast it. Massive amounts of card advantage there. We can just churn through an opponent's deck and pick the best cards that we get with all of our tokens hitting it. Wonderful, wonderful card. Then we've got the Vengeful Ancestor. 4 mana 3/4 with flying. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, goad target creature. Whenever a goaded creature attacks, it deals 1 damage to its controller. Whew. Now that's a nice little chip away at them, you know, it's a nice little tax. And it does just fit with the style of deck that we're building. So definitely get this in there. Then we've got the Kamainu? I have no idea. Battle Armor. 3 mana for a 2/2 Equipment Dog. Not going to play that well with the cats, is it? You know, they're going to have a bit of a tussle. But it's got Menace, and a quick creature gets +2/2 and has Menace. And whenever it or a quick creature deals combat damage to a player, goad each creature that player controls. So if we get in there with this, or whatever it's reconfigured onto, we're going to get that trigger and everything will have to attack. Really nice and generates a lot of board state pressure. Geode Rager is very similar. 6 mana for a 4/3 first striker. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, goad each creature target player controls. So this does cost 6 mana, which is quite the investment. We are playing green though, so we should be able to get up there. And it does just cause that same chaos I'm all after. And then if there's a lot of creatures attacking and, you know, leaving their opponents unblocked, we can get in there. And then we can use all of our tap creatures for one of these abilities on Halo Fountain. 3 mana for an artifact, pay 1 white, and tap and untap a tapped creature you control. It's a weird sentence. Create a 1/1 white and green citizen token. It's a nice token generator. Pay 2 and tap and untap 2 target creatures you control. Tapped creatures you control. Draw a card. So the goading will definitely make us have lots of tap creatures. But then you could pay 5 white mana. I think this is. I know it's hard to see from here. Tap, untap 15 tap creatures you control. You win the game. But let's be honest, if you're attacking with like 15 creatures, yeah, you probably won the game anyway. But this is such a cool card, and just 3 mana, brilliant. Love it. So there we go, nice Goady package. And then Halo Fountain for the laughs. Which brings me on to number 1. And at number 1, we've got ways of giving our opponents big threats. Because, okay, we can goad whatever they're playing, but let's force them to get massive threats onto the field. And Boldware Heavyweights is one of the best ways of doing it. And it gives us a large threat as well. 4 mana for a Giant Warrior, 8/8. 4 mana, 8/8 with Trample. When it comes into play, each opponent may search his or her library for a creature card, put it into play. Then each player who searches our library this way shuffles it. So this is going to give each of our opponents a massive threat. And we get an 8/8 with Trample. So we can then goad all of those threats and force them to attack each other. Such a cool card and works amazingly with this commander. I've loved this card for ages. I've got a foil one knocking around. Oh, love it. So cool and works brilliantly. Then we've got Iwamari. What are these names today? Of the Open Fist. 4 mana for a 5/5 with Trample. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent may put a legendary creature card from his or her hand onto the battlefield. So they just get to dump them out there, and then we can goad them. And we've got a 4 mana 5/5. Not that impressive, but it works great in this deck. Then we got the Tempting Worm. 2 mana for a 5/5. Oh, goddamn. When it comes into play, each opponent may put any number of artifact, creature, enchantment, and or land cards from his or her hand into play. This can go very badly wrong, not going to lie to you, but at least the game will end quite quickly. This is wonderful, and then we can goad whatever they've dumped onto the field. Then we've got the Bramble Sovereign. This is great for us and also for our opponents because 4 mana 4/4 with Dryad. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do, that creature's controller creates a token that's a copy of that creature. So we can give our opponents another version of their big threat, and then maybe they'll swing at us, but maybe they'll swing at their opponents, or we can goad them and force them to attack. But we can also give ourselves copies of our other big threats. Really great card, fits wonderfully. Then we got the Great Aurora for a global version of this effect, or at least a way that we can potentially get massively ahead. 9 mana for the Great Aurora, sorcery. Each player shuffles all cards from his or her hand and all permanents he or she owns into his or her library, then draws that many cards. Each player may put any number of land cards from his or her hand onto the battlefield. So this is wonderful because we're going to have tons of tokens. So we might end up with 20 tokens, 8 lands, couple of creatures, something like that. But our opponents who are playing more fair magic, they might only have 15 permanents. So we're going to draw 30 cards, put all of our lands into play, and then the lands will come in untapped, so we can tap them and play out our big things, and our opponents are left behind. It's a great way of accelerating you in the game. Your opponents might be miserable, but who cares really when we're this far ahead? But we can also help our opponents in various ways, and I think a deck like this, where you're sort of manipulating combat, you want to make some friends. So Root Weaver Druid is a great way of doing that. 3 mana, 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent may search their library for up to 3 basic lands cards. Then each put Then each put one of those cards onto the battlefield tapped under your control, so mine, and the rest onto the battlefield tapped under their control. Then each player who searches the library this way shuffles it. So if each of our opponents gets a land, gets 3 lands, they get 2 of them, but we get 3. So we're a land ahead and we've got a body on the board. It really accelerates the game and pushes the game forward, which is important. Similarly, there's Avatar of Growth. 6 mana for a 4/4, so this spell costs 1 less for each opponent you have. Playing Commander, so generally there's 3 opponents. This will cost you 3 mana for a trampling 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, each player searches their library for up to 2 basic land cards, puts them onto the battlefield, and shuffles their library. Very, very nice. I love this. I play it in my Slither Legion deck, just to make a few friends. So, nice collection there of... They are friendly cards, but we're going to use their effects against their users. Really, really nice. And hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please subscribe to this channel. Going to be making tons more videos like this, and there's plenty more commanders to look at, so come and join me. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.